Today is Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. It's 6:34 p.m. And if you join us in the pledge, we'll start our meeting.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Randy, roll call, please.
Trustee LaRue?
Here.
Trustee Wiegand?
Here.
Trustee Everson?
Here.
Trustee Marks?
Present.
Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is here, and Supervisor Duran.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Gerard, our legal counsel, Roger Zappa. Our Superintendent of Public Works, John Kangas, is here, and our Fire Chief, Dan Shanahan, is here.
Okay, we're ready to roll. Any public comment before we start? None at all, okay. Board member comment. So I need approval of the consent agenda. Somebody wants to make that, unless there's some changes
I have questions after we get going, afterwards.
about the consent agenda.
What's in there, just have some open questions I think can be answered.
You want anything pulled out?
No, nothing pulled out, no.
Okay. So were you
I'll
approving it
move to
then?
approve the consent agenda.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye. Got a budget amendment in there.
Yeah, it needs to be a roll call vote.
You, good eye, thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, let me get to it first. Treasurer Johnson might have, if you got any questions before I get to it, just
You wanna,
get to that.
No, I can do it right after the roll call. I don't think, it won't affect anything, just some open informational questions.
he's just trying to find it. He
Here it
thought
is, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, the budget amendment is the first of the year, 2020-01, and it's an authorization is requested for an additional $12,000 of expenditures for the General Service Administration to change from health insurance opt-out to enroll in the Blue Cross plan. So that's it.
Randy, did we know about that when we did the budget? Was it in there, or was this something new?
No, this came up during, every year we have an open enrollment period, and one of our staff opted to go back into the health insurance.
So it's not part of the budget, that's why we had to make that?
Well, it'll be in the budget.
Right,
yeah.
but I mean, we hadn't planned for it ahead of time when we prepared this budget?
Well, what'll happen is they will transfer the funds from the opt-out to the health insurance.
Okay.
So it's in the budget. It's just,
Yeah.
it has to be an internal transfer.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Ben.
Okay, roll call is Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Trustee Marks.
Yes.
Trustee LaRue.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Trustee Everson.
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes, and Supervisor Duran.
Yes.
That motion carries 7-0.
Okay. And I just need approval of the rest of the agenda unless there's some
I
changes.
have some couple questions on the items in the consent agenda.
Okay, you want to do those now?
Yes.
Okay.
On the bills, I was going through that, and there's $1,000 for the radio advertising for the music at the mall event. Do we have that all budgeted in
Yes.
that?
That's part of the community enhancement budget.
Okay. So the follow-up on is that there's a number of vendors there. I'm assuming they're paying something there.
They're on their own at the mall. Yeah, they're just there. We're not paying them to be
They're
there.
not paying either.
I don't believe they are paying anything. The mall's trying to increase traffic in the mall.
Okay. Okay, the other one, on the sheriff department, I've questioned this before, the comments that they get from the Central Dispatch. There's 218 of them, complaints. I'm just looking if we can get some kind of synopsis of what type of complaints they are in that. Because every month there's a number of complaints for them in that. It's in there, but it's not in detail in that enough.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they have very much detail other than, a generic description of what the complaint is. But I'll check with the sheriff's department to see what they actually get.
Just the type
I
of.
don't know, Chief Shanahan might be able to answer some of that. I don't know how much detail that they keep in terms of what a dispatch is. I know we get dispatched from there too, and usually it's fairly cryptic.
It could be anything from a dog complaint to a noise complaint to anything like that. I mean, would all be part of the complaints.
Because I looked at the the great increase in that, in this month, in that too. Just that, looking at the type of complaints we're getting, is there something we can do as a board to maybe alleviate some of those too? I'm not sure, that too, so that would be the only thing.
Some of those, I'm sure, some of those will be weather-related complaints. You know, cars off the road, people stuck, you know, out of gas, things such as that. You know, with the weather we've had, that would probably be, but we can find out. I'm not sure how detailed of a log they keep at Central Dispatch, but we can find out.
I mean, just looking for a kind of a synopsis, so if we as a board can maybe do something to decrease some of those and that too at the same time, so I don't know. And the other one have Wisconsin Electric on their fly ash. We got the last payment, so the question I have is that they will continue to monitor those cells?
They have to. That falls under the DEQ or Eagle, as they're now called, yes.
So,
Yeah,
that's the
they'll
question
have
I
to
have.
they'll still have to do the compliance monitoring.
Okay,
As long as there's anything in those ash landfills.
okay, that's it.
Did we do the regular agenda? Not yet. But we have the motion.
We do not. I will make a motion to approve the regular agenda as presented.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Nobody's given me any declarations of conflict for this agenda, so I'm thinking we're okay. Board Education and Privileged Comment for tonight, the Fire Department. Chief Shanahan, have you got anything fun to share? You've got your stats on, come on up, yeah, come on up. We get your stats pretty well itemized.
Nothing really fun, I guess, but, and then to expand on Manager Gerard with Central Dispatch, those calls, the weather-related, they possibly could get 10 or 15 calls on one power line being down. So that could have been the high rise in the number of calls. And they do keep very detailed reports of every call that comes in. And speaking of calls, we did have 57 last month, so it was a little bit higher number for us. Just a few highlights. I'm sure most of you are aware that we were out at Foresight. We were requested out there with our ladder truck for that apartment fire, and they were very, very appreciative that we were able to bring it out there. Chocolate was also out there. So Marquette City Fire stood on standby for us and for Chocolate. We did have EMS personnel here, and the ambulance was covered. But just we do have a good working relationship with our neighbors, and I just want to really expand on that, and that's been very beneficial to all of us, I believe. And in our township, you might have heard of the Tower Fire over here on Tower Road. Quite large sum of dollars were expensed. We did report that just to cover ourselves with the Michigan State Fire Marshal. But by the time we got there, there was a shed there also, but we had to walk through like probably 1,000 feet, 3 feet deep snow with all of our gear on. It took us quite a while to get there. So it was on the ground when we got there. So we just used extinguishers and shovels to completely extinguish it, but it was on the ground when we got there and the tower had collapsed. And then you did hear about, I know this is talking January now, but the RTI, Marquette City had called out 3 alarms, so that's any available firefighter in the city were responding. They also asked us to assist with EMS. We had people in our licensed EMS 2176 pickup that was stationed at their station, Station 1, and then at our township, we had 8 guys on standby. Chocolate did the same thing. They have a command trailer, and they were at RTI, and then they had 8 guys at their station on standby to cover the city and to help each other out. We were all ready for anything that could happen in our 3 districts. And then also Marquette County 131, Rescue 131 was at RTI also. They had used up all their resources at that event also, so they asked us to be on standby for anything that came in the county. So nothing did come up, but we were, like I said, we're all good neighbors, and it works out real well. And speaking of good neighbors, the agreement we have with Marquette City Garage has worked out very well for us. I'm just going to give you a couple examples. Just 2175 transmission. We were having issues with it in the fall, or we thought we were. We took it down there. They looked at it right away, said, no, you're fine, bring it back when the winter, because we don't use the brush trucks. It's our brush truck in the winter as much. Took it down there, repaired. I don't want to forget this, Chad Neidberg from DPW. We are, in our ambulance, our air suspension, and actually it works as far as suction also, our air compressors had failed 2 weeks or so ago. And John was aware, and we asked if we could have, because Chad could get it swapped out, versus taking it to the city and tying it up for a day. You know, Chad came over to our station and swapped out the compressors in the ambulance, which was very nice. And which, that way we didn't have to take it out of service. Ambulance again. We also had a heater hose break the other night. We repaired it Saturday night, temporary fix. Sunday morning, thought we put a permanent fix on it. Called up the city, said, can we just have you take a quick look at it just to make sure? Bring it on down, don't have to take it out of service. You're fine, you're good to go. I mean, that's nice, comforting, you know, walk right in the door and say, yep, pull the mechanic over, take a look, go through it for 10 minutes. So everything's worked out real well so far. Thank you. Any questions about anything?
Any questions for Dan? Pete?
And did you ever consider taking pictures of all the fire people? I get he gives us magazine, you know, like here, and that's all we get is a picture of the building. But you ever think about having a picture, individual picture, you know, even around here, or in like 8x11 and put the pictures in there? So, you know, a lot of us on the board don't know everybody, but we sure appreciate
Correct.
them doing that. And I think we have to show them the appreciation.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, because, you know, the time they're putting in, and you look at the reports, it's more and more, you know.
It is.
Call-outs.
You will see that report next
And they got another
month.
job, and they got a family and that, and I said, we
Yes.
really appreciate it, but we never really, any effort, but it's nice to know who they are.
No, I agree with you 100%. And what happened the last 2 years, I believe, the local paper, they have a picture of us as a group, and it did not get put, I think there was a few departments last year that were left out also. I think our neighbors, both of our neighbors were left out of that, you know, Fire Prevention Week. And then some of them, they just put a picture of the building because maybe that's all they had or whatever. They do have a picture on file, and it's usually requested, and it has not been the last 2 years. So, I mean, we do inquire about it, and we do have the picture, and yes, we've talked to, we do have it for our EMS crew, but I do want one for the fire as well, and we have talked to Jason's a photographer, and he's offered to come over and take pictures.
I just want them to know how much we really appreciate the duties that they do.
Yes, you're right. The time commitment is huge. And next month, I hope to show you a report on what we did this past year.
You're
It's been a
thinking
little
about bringing the
shorthanded.
pictures here, though, right? Putting them on the
Yeah,
wall?
I mean, for the paper also, but have something here that somebody could look at, you know, we could look at it, you know, maybe some part of our book, you know, like we got the
Okay.
Marquette Township book, maybe a sheet in there with all the pictures and their names and, you know.
Just have to keep it updated. We should have
Yes,
Public
yeah,
Works in
that's,
there,
yep.
too.
And I will ask, he offered, Jason McCarthy had offered to do that, and he's a photographer and does great, he's done some pictures for us before, and I will ask him if he would be willing to do that again.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else for the chief?
No.
Good,
Okay, thank
thanks.
you.
Appreciate it. Public Works, John, you're up.
What I have to follow up with that is so exciting, he's not going to stay for it.
John, excuse me 1 second. Dan, do you need to be here for the officer's recommendations?
No, I can handle that.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay, thanks. Sorry, John.
No problem. This isn't exactly the most exciting subject in the world,
Hey, it's
but
important.
it is very important.
Yeah.
Every
It is
time
if
you
it's not
flush the
working.
toilet, you want to know where it goes,
Heck
right?
yeah.
To the wastewater plant down by the Carp River. And of course, the wastewater plant is operated under the authority of the advisory board, which I am the chair. Little history, I started on the 16th of September at your very next meeting the following week on a Tuesday. I was appointed to the board. The board met that Thursday, and I was appointed the chair. The chair gets the duty of presenting this information to the city commission every year, and Randy suggested that I come and present it to you. I will also be presenting it to the Marquette Township Board in March. This is a much more abbreviated version over what went to the city commission because I don't want you to fall asleep. So there is the advisory board. You can see myself, Manager Gerard is our alternate. Hopefully during my stint in his remaining time, he won't have to go unless he really wants to. Purpose, of course, under the intergovernmental agreement from 1977, that goes back 40-something years, of course. The city and the two townships have joint ownership in the wastewater plant that was built in the 1940s. For those of you that aren't aware, back in the 30s and prior to that, our wastewater was direct discharged right into the lake. And from what I understand, that's when we had our best fishery in the lower harbor. That has since changed. City of Marquette is a contract operator, and the board oversees the operation of the facility through recommending rules and regulations for operation, allocating the fixed demand costs, and you might notice I bolded that 84%, 9%, and 7%. Last year it was 85, 10, and 5. Chocolate purchased 1% from each of Marquette Township and the city for the expansion of their system for the KBIC project. Other responsibilities are to allocate and assign the operation and maintenance costs, and then make recommendations regarding the operating budget and the CIP. So here is the per unit rate, and I don't know if you can read that. I can read it pretty good up here. You can see there was a 4-cent increase from 18 to 19, and this is per kgals. So for every 1,000 gallons, it costs $1.66 in 2019 to treat that wastewater. It's pretty cheap. So accomplishments from last year. First one I already mentioned, that's finalizing the sale of the 2% capacity of Chocolate. And just so you know, that was a little bit interesting in that not a taxpayer dime was spent on it. KBIC paid for all of that. It was a 6-figure purchase price. Implemented a computer maintenance management system, and we are doing the exact same thing here at the township, just under a different software name. Basically what it's doing is trying to track all of our costs, all of our activities, and then added an additional 500 acres of farmland for land applying biosolids. That's a big deal for the wastewater plant because they can land apply biosolids much closer to home, so that ultimately saves the wastewater plant money, and then all of us that are wastewater customers will hopefully save in the long run as well. Goals for 2020 is to implement a succession plan for Kirk Goodman, who is retiring after 40 years of service with the city. I think he'll be missed. Negotiate a new 3-year biosolids hauling contract, and of course, hauling is one of the most expensive parts of dealing with biosolids other than the plant operation creating it. So if you know your costs to truck the stuff to the local farms 3 years in advance, your budgeting process is much easier for that line item. Upgrading the hardware and software for SCADA, something that you have to do eventually just because the technology gets old. And the newer technology also has better features for you to monitor your systems. So the last one being the most important, and that's submitting a project plan to Eagle, formerly DEQ, for an SRF loan, and that's for an expansion to the existing system for a solids handling improvements. That project will reduce the risk of non-compliance with the discharge permit. It will reduce handling costs while increasing handling flexibility by hopefully adding conveyor type systems so that it doesn't have to be handled by humans with machines. Basically a guy behind the wheel of a front end loader. And then it will promote sustainability, and really that last one comes into play with the addition of the 2 Generators that were installed on the property as part of this citywide contract they had with JCI. These generators basically generate heat and electricity for the facility by burning the gases that are a byproduct of the wastewater treatment. So pretty neat. What it does is it takes some money out of the pocket of BLP, puts it into the operating of these on-site generators, and saves the wastewater plant some money. That's what those generators look like. Pretty complicated, but if both of them are running, they would not need to draw any power from the grid. One of the things that they want to do is bring in more food-based waste and septic waste to generate more gas so that they can run both generators more. And then, of course, Kirk served 35 years on the board. He was the chair for many of those years, and just wanted to say thank you one more time for his service. Any questions?
John, where's the 500 acres that you bought?
It wasn't purchased. It's an agreement with with local farmers somewhere in the southern part of the county.
So you still have to just haul it there then?
Correct.
Anything else for John? Dave, sorry.
Those lights get you in trouble every
Yeah.
time. The gas that's burnt to operate those generators, how much can you operate the generators based on what's being produced now, or can you operate both of them full-time?
I don't think they've successfully run both of them full-time for much longer than a couple-hour window. But they can run one generator at a time for over a 24-hour period. And they just started the 7-day testing on that because they had to bring the engineers from Czechoslovakia in to do final tuning on it. This was last week, I believe. So I'm not sure exactly how long that window is that one generator can run nonstop. But when the other generator isn't running on the methane gas produced in the plant, it can run on natural gas. So cogen is what they call them, cogen units.
Do they pull off the gas and store it on site, or is it just
Correct.
pulled off and burnt?
Yep, it's stored on site, and it has to be scrubbed before it can be burned, so it goes through a filter, and pretty high-tech stuff. It makes my job feel pretty insignificant.
Okay, Pete?
John, the fumes from the gases, have they improved upon that? Over the years, you used to drive by there and you get that smell. Have they improved upon that at all?
No, and I don't think that will ever go away. It's just, unless the plant is completely redesigned to something different than what it currently is. That's just the nature of the plant turning over, and you get that smell once in a while.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Ernie?
You mentioned $1.66 for
Per 1,000 gallons.
1,000 gallons. How does that compare overall in the industry?
I would say it's pretty competitive, but I don't have facts to back it up. The biggest cost is the infrastructure getting it there, our collection systems. So the rates that we all pay, I'm on the public system in Chocolate, anyone that's on the public system here, the biggest rate is operating the collection system because we have 3 communities going to 1 treatment plant, so there's an economy of scale there. In fact, if you could make it bigger, it would make more sense, but the wastewater facility is landlocked on a postage stamp sized property, so it probably can't get much bigger than it currently is.
Dan?
So no more torch outside the plant?
No, that was
For years,
basically
we've watched
being
that
burned off
torch.
to the atmosphere. Now it's going to be used, it is being used to create heat and power in the
I
plant
always
itself.
thought that was just a waste of energy.
Yep, landfills do that too.
Good, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, thanks, John. Appreciate it. Do you have any comments on that? It's pretty
Yeah,
straightforward.
three items a little further down on the agenda that will address the assessing.
Okay. Yep, second page. Attorney report.
This has been an exceptionally busy month since my last report. A couple of highlights, well, in addition to all of the meetings and the communications and documents and opinions regarding the, sorry, now I am, okay. In addition to all of the meetings and opinions and documents generated in conjunction with interviewing of manager candidates and so forth, we've had the pending litigation on the individual that filed suit in the Huron Woods subdivision with regard to the short-term rental permit that was issued. I'm happy to report that that was successfully resolved. The suit has been dismissed. It involved some concessions being made by the property owner, who was also sued, but the township paid nothing and offered nothing to resolve that. In addition to there being some allegations that perhaps the Planning Commission did or did not fully comply with all criteria in the zoning ordinance in issuing that permit, there were some assertions that there may have been a freedom of information violation. We argued that that was completely without merit, and the plaintiff ultimately dismissed that. So the whole suit is dismissed, the litigation is done. The landowner has agreed not to conduct short-term rentals. Any rentals on the premises will only be a conventional or traditional one-year type of lease. Also, there were some issues regarding the swimming pool, and the owner has agreed that the swimming pool will either be utilized only in the presence of a supervising adult, or it will be covered at all times. And the pool is already equipped with a cover, so that was part of the settlement agreement, but those terms didn't directly involve Marquette Township. I did examine the noise ordinance to make certain whether we are to verify whether we comply with a number of evolving changes over the last several years, not just in Michigan, but throughout the United States. We have both general and specific provisions, and I did issue a report and opinion on that, and it was my conclusion that the amendment does satisfy the most recent trend of complying with what's referred to as a reasonable person test. So I have recommended no revisions to the noise ordinance itself. Now, enforcement of the existing noise ordinance is always with our sheriff department, our deputies that we hire and pay the extra funds for. And the noise ordinance is a little bit more difficult to enforce sometimes than, let's say, a junk ordinance, because the junk is always there. There's if you've got a junked car, or you've got rubbish or trash or building supplies, it's a matter of taking some photographs and it's still there the next day, and it's easy to review. Noise, by its nature, can only really be prosecuted under any ordinance if it's observed by the enforcing officer. So it's a matter of being persistent. If you've got some people who are skirting state law and skirting the ordinance as well, of just being persistent on contacting the legal authorities for enforcement of that ordinance. But the ordinance itself appears satisfactory. We've had a couple of ongoing issues involving an undeveloped street, or a couple of streets that were abandoned going back to the 1970s. There have been some discussions with an attorney who's representing some of the landowners in proximity to those. I don't see that really going anyplace at this point, but there's a question of, should the neighbors be taxed to the center line of the abandoned street or not? They currently are. And to my understanding, that was originally at their own request, because they wanted to exercise some dominion over them and exclude others from use of it. But I'll probably next month have a more complete update on that. We also went through dozens of easements that Marquette Township has for the sewer system, the water system, stormwater management system, and some of our recreational property, recreational trail easements on property that we don't own, but have easements in our favor, allowing us to use them to just make sure that those are covered from a liability standpoint under our insurance policy. That came to light at the last meeting when we were taking a look at what was included in the scope of the park plan proposal by the Hannula agency. So I went through, I would estimate in the 27 years that our office has been involved that we've prepared dozens and dozens of easements, mostly in the water and sewer realm, and there really are only a couple that require special insurance coverage, and those are in the recreational field. A number of other minor issues as well of an ongoing nature, but that pretty much sums up the bulk of the more time-consuming ones.
Any questions for the attorney? I want to thank you, Roger, for all the hard work you've done on all this contract. We've been throwing stuff at you and giving you time frames, and can you do it by, in 5 minutes, and I appreciate that. He's always very accommodating. All right, community linkage. Anything anybody's hearing from the public about township activities? We have a call this afternoon from a resident who was not happy with the contract that was submitted by our candidate. Her words were, his contract request blows my mind. And I told her I would tell you. I reiterated, she was going from the newspaper article, so I reiterated what we had agreed to and what our process was going to be, so she was grateful. She thinks this board is doing an awesome job, and she's real happy with everything we're doing, and she's hoping that we get a good manager that'll not be so expensive, is what she said. In that light, you did receive your copy of your contract that Roger edited and prepared. I'm thinking if you look at it overnight, and if anybody's got any problems, let me know. Otherwise, if you want me to send it out, it looks like it's ready for me to send out. I just want to make sure, because everybody wanted to make sure they had a chance to see it.
Give you time, give
Yeah.
us a middle time tomorrow, and then if anyone doesn't have any problems with
You
it.
want to, is noon tomorrow long enough? Or do you want like 5 o'clock, noon tomorrow?
Noon's fine.
So if I don't hear from you or Roger doesn't hear from you, let's go ahead to send it, right?
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. If you want to just at least write this down, so you don't have to check your calendars right now, but the Business Association is asking that we have a joint meeting May 19th. It's at noon, right before that meeting date that we would have normally, Tuesday, May 19th, and then Tuesday, November 17th. So I told her I'd check with you guys, and we don't have to decide right now.
Only thing we'll have to do is put it on the agenda so we can get it scheduled and posted, because if it's not scheduled and posted, I
19th?
might forget.
I'll remind you, but I just
May-
thought, because
May 19th.
I just got the request today that I would ask you.
What was the December date?
November 17th.
December.
November.
Well, I thought you said there was also a December date.
No.
Oh,
May-
okay.
May 19th.
Okay,
Apparently, they only want to do 2 this year. Last year, we did 3.
yeah.
So May 19th and November 17th. They're both Tuesdays, they'd both be noon here in the community room for lunch, and
November 17th might be lightly attended.
That's a holiday.
oh, sure it is. It's a holiday, 2 weeks. Yeah, if a bunch of you are, that's fine. That's their meeting date at noon, so this is why we try to accommodate them.
Actually, the 17th will be after the election.
Yes.
And I'm not sure that some of us might be there at that time.
to work till the 20th.
Yeah.
Is this?
It's the, yeah, it's the 20th. So that might be the final meeting for some folks.
Final lunch.
Scary. So everybody should be there with party hats on, right? Okay, that's all I had, unless somebody else has something else from the public. All right, committee updates. David?
From the Planning Commission, their January 8th Planning Commission meeting, and we had the election of officers where Mike Springer remains as chairman, Steve Heikkinen took the vice chairman position, and I remained as secretary. The site plan for the Discount Tire Retail Store was approved. That's on the, located where the old Cenex station used to be. The commission requests that the board authorize that audio recordings be placed in the Marquette Township YouTube channel and that video recordings be made at the commission's request. That's further down on your agenda tonight. And the commission also proposed concept plan for the Lions Field ice rink roof to the board for their consideration. That's the further down on your agenda also tonight, so we can touch base on those again. The road committee's January 7th, the road committee meeting was the election of officers. I remained as the chairman, Pete LaRue as the vice chairman, and Mike Springer secretary. The only activity that took place at that meeting was we reviewed the 2020 road rehab maintenance RFP that was posted, and those bids close tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And from the Recreation Committee that was tonight, that will be summarized at our February 4th meeting, but there was election of officers where Todd Caruth took the chairman's position, Mike Springer is vice chairman, and I'm the secretary on that. So unless anybody's got any questions.
Anything from Dave? How about events? Pete, what are we doing on the events committee? What's the next one?
Just, we had the music in the mall, 5 to 7, third Thursday of every month. We have vendors in there from, look up there, but I mean, have bread, you have, what else is up there, Randy?
Well, there are several.
Yeah, on the back. All right.
Yeah, I have it attached to the manager's
Yeah.
report.
We got three
Flyer.
different bands playing in there. One in the front of it, the middle, and then the end. And they have Seeds and Spores, Huron Mountain, Lapidary, Mother Mary, Canned Goods, Bakery Barn, and Devon Chocolates. So you should take the time just to go visit with them and thank them for putting in the time, trying to get our mall going, and also make our business district a little more reliable.
And that occurs the third Thursday of each month, between 5 and 7 o'clock at the mall. It's getting more active. The first one was a little light attended, but it's been, the word is getting out, and people have been coming. There's more and more vendors each time that are coming into the mall to be there for the folks. But as Pete mentioned, basically it's primarily focused on music. You have 3 separate bands or musical groups basically that do different types of music. One near the front entrance, one near the back of the mall near the old penny store, and one in the center. And people basically just mill around. Their vendors are scattered throughout the mall, and there's getting to be more and more each time. So it's a fun event. It's out of the snow. It's warm. Thursday evening, third Thursday of each month from 5 to 7.
And then we'll have to have a meeting because we have to start planning our car show, community days, and again, Santa Claus and that in December. So we'll have more information later.
And in the mall, you're trying to kind of make it like a farmer's market. That was kind of the hope,
Correct.
that it could evolve into that if folks want to bring stuff in there.
Right now, the focus is on a winter's farmer market, so root vegetables and things such as that. You know, they have cheeses and honey and, a variety of different things that the vendors are bringing in. Pete mentioned some of the ones. They have multiple, and like, for instance, Seeds and Spores might have 2 or 3 different items that would be in different locations of the mall, that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's, the intention is to keep that very popular farmer's market concept going through the winter months.
If we get an article in the Mining Journal or in the TV6 or something like that, that might help it, you know. But we have to, you know, support them by, just by being there and buying a couple things and, you know, appreciate them doing that.
Novel idea. Any questions or committee updates? Or we are still, Dave, planning-wise, has Leanne left then? Is she?
Yes,
planning?
Leanne has been gone
Supposed to
for,
be the end of the year.
yeah.
I just wanted to make sure. So we are gonna put an ad in, the paper with kind of the job description, if you would call it that, for the planning commission.
Right.
Just say we're looking for a volunteer.
Specifically addressing
Yeah,
planning.
just for the commission. And if anybody else is interested, please let us know. You can call the office or check with Dave or Mike Springer. Planning commission's a little different animal.
I
It's,
thought somebody had submitted some applications, but.
I made a couple phone calls and left some messages
Okay.
with the people and I have not gotten an answer back. I just left voicemail messages.
Okay.
So maybe they hear this and they'll give me a call. All right, next is the committee reports. Those are draft reports of the Iron Ore Heritage Rec Authority Board meeting agenda for January 22nd and the minutes of the December 18th meeting, Fire Department Business and Officers Meeting minutes of December 16th. And then number 9 is next. Consider Lions Field Conceptual Ice Rink roof recommendation. Does that fall to you, Dave, or?
Yeah, if you remember some time ago, the board tasked the planning commission with coming up with a recommendation as to what to do to extend the ice season at Lions Field. They come back with a recommendation. They considered a roof over the ice rink and artificial ice. The roof was between $170,000 and $200,000 a cost. The artificial ice was $110,000. What swayed their recommendation was because of the broader use that's out there other than just skating during the winter time. So it was a recommendation of the planning to the rec committee, back to the planning commission, and now the planning commission to the board, that we take a look at a roof over the ice rink. That's the concept drawing is in the packet tonight. There's no action on behalf of the board. That's just brings this matter back to the board and to a close as far as the planning commission goes until somebody says, let's spend $200,000.
Write your
Put in for a grant request or something.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a grant request there with usually 25 or 30% matching funds. So normally the way we would anticipate that going is a grant with individual donations or partnerships with some of the businesses around. That would be another one of those deals that we would need some time to promote it, but I'm sure we could end up doing it at no cost to the township budget. But we're not ready to do that this year, I don't think.
This, have you kind of talked about, I think it said in here, strategic planning? Was that, maybe the board can consider that when we have our strategic planning meeting to decide if they want to put it on the list of 3 or 5 or however many items?
Yeah, and I've got a stack of paper for you when we get down to that on the agenda, so.
Okay. Good, little light reading. All right, so yes, that's it, I think.
That's it. There's no action to be taken. It's just finishing up what we're directed to do.
Okay. Were you first or John? Okay. Go ahead, John.
Dave, just question. I know you're saying there's no action needed, but would it help any to have at least a consensus of the board as to what they thought? I think the report was very well done, very well prepared, and gave us a lot to thought. But at this time, you don't think you need even a consensus of the board to start looking for aid to accomplish it?
We had a consensus of the board when we submitted the recommendation for the roof.
If that's enough.
I think at this point, it's a matter of when the board wants to greenlight the rec committee to start moving forward with grants and start a program to get some donations in. Again, it's a matter of bringing a presentation back to the board on what it's going to cost, what the grants will provide, what we need to get for donations, and what the maintenance on that's going to be. But we're a ways away from that. I can't see us doing it this year. We're looking next year at the earliest.
Okay. Just an aside, but I think the involvement of both complementary. My recommendation is that we complement the involvement of the two boards and the recommendation they've made. I think it was well done.
Thanks. And I just to remind you, even if we wanted to do something earlier, the grant season has to be applied by the 1st of April, and there's just not enough time to even get the grant submitted at this point.
Thank you.
So we'd be looking at the 1st of April next year. if
Right.
this was something we wanted to do. Okay, Ernie, I think you were next.
Looking through this and that, whether to go with roof or artificial ice, and I know the roof is more expensive, but I think in the long term, it would benefit the township better overall in that. The reason I say that is my granddaughter graduated high school last May, and we were down to a party in the vicinity where she lives, and they had a covered area in that, and it was well done. No worry about anything in that. It was not really a rink, but it was a big concrete slab that they had covered, and it really worked out fine in that. So I would point, as far as I'm concerned, point towards a roof to cover it, and not so much an ice rink concern in that at this point in time.
Well, and that's why the recommendation came back from the rec committee and the planning commission, is because the walk-around survey we did when we were doing that initial study, there's all kinds of activity that takes place on that surface when there's not ice on it. All the way from
Pickleball.
kids riding bikes and pickleball and playing broom ball, and there's just all kinds of things going on. And there's lots of ideas out there for additional activities if it was covered. So I just think we'd be looking at making it easier for a broader group of the township to use it if it's for something other than ice.
And what the parents like, I guess, is to be able to bring their kids, little ones that can ride their bikes in there.
Mhm.
It's big enough. And they
Goes
can
on
kind
all
of
summer
see.
long.
Yeah.
Put their kids in there and let them go.
See 'em, with the little helmets on, and that's cool. Anything else, Ernie? Okay. Pete?
A lot of it's been said already, but if this summer, take a run over there and just see what's going on. It's more than just an ice rink. You know, it's like a big playpen, because they put the children in there, you shut the door, and you don't have to worry about running out in the road or anything like that. But like Dave said, there's so many other things going on. It's just amazing how much it's really being used. So, but if we use it just for an ice rink, it's, you know, kind of a waste of, we try to, if we spend any money in the township, we try to make sure we get the best use out of it. And the best use is put a roof over it. The kids can play inside of it, winter and summer. You want to put a little movie screen on one end and have a little movie or something like that. They do it in different towns. St. Ignace does pretty big on that. And who knows what you can do, you know. We can have a dance for the teenagers or something. We did that years ago in Chalkley. I sponsored that, and we had prizes for the young kids and that, and it went over pretty good. So there's just no limit to what we can do, and I think we can keep our kids busy that way. We won't have to be calling the sheriff department on them.
Okay. Anything else for that? We'll add it to the list on the strategic agenda then. Planning Commission meeting audio recommendation.
That was sent from the board to the planning commission to think about it and come back with what they wanted to do. And at their January 8th meeting, the planning commission voted unanimously to recommend to the board that the planning commission meetings be put on audio on the Marquette Township YouTube channel, and have the ability to request certain meetings be video recorded and placed on that same YouTube channel at the discretion of the planning commission. The cost for the audio is negligible. It's picked up by Clerk Rattari and from Jason and posted is all it is. The video cost is $30 a meeting.
Personnel costs?
Yes.
Yeah, we thought maybe if there was a public hearing or a special meeting or something that, you know, we would want to have a little more reach with the public or explanation, that they could probably arrange somebody to take the video.
It sounds expensive.
And what the
Quality.
planning commission was requesting is that the board approve that we do the audios on the YouTube channel, and that the board also give authority to the planning commission to just videotape the ones they think are necessary to be videotaped.
Just give like, what, a week's notice or something?
Yeah, logistically wise, if you want a video, either myself or John can cover that. We just have to make sure, give us a week or two in advance.
Yeah, and you'd know that 2 weeks out.
Okay, that'd be fine. Winter's okay, but summer schedule gets a little more hectic.
What kind of motion are we looking for?
It just,
There's no motion.
there is actually.
No, there is none laid out.
It just says recommends that the board concur.
Well, I will make a
Second
motion.
page.
Yeah, I will make a motion that the township board concur with the planning commission's request
Support.
for, to place audio on the YouTube channel of the planning commission meetings and video if requested by the planning commission.
And you're still good with all of that, John?
Yes.
Support it, okay. Any other questions or comments?
I guess the only thing would be is if it's $30 a meeting, their budget, if they have a few meetings a year, it might bump it up a little bit. I think it's a negligible cost, so
Just be a budget amendment to do it, that's all.
at the end of the year, yeah.
And I don't even think it would take a budget amendment.
There should be enough money in that budget for that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
So I will, so from the first meeting in January, we'll start. So that would be the last meeting. I'll get that from Jason and post it then.
Okay.
We had talked about that, you and I, like a year ago.
Yeah.
We didn't realize, and I didn't think that it, because the planning commission is more autonomous of a board, that we need a process. So Roger let us know that and what we had to do.
Attorney reminded us of that.
Yeah, so we had to step through the hoops and make sure everybody agreed. So January's, this last meeting?
We'll start for the 2020 meetings, yeah.
Okay. So anybody that really wants to follow the planning commission, now you'll have an avenue to do that. YouTube. 9C, consider fire rescue department 2020 officer recommendations. So Randy, you're taking this one.
Say again?
You're taking this one?
Yes, I am. As in prior years, every year the fire department has an election pursuant to the operating guidelines within the department to establish the officers for that calendar year within the department. And they recently had that meeting in that election, and the chief and the department are recommending the slate of officers that are attached. Hose Captain Mike Gregorich, Ladder Captain Andrew Winslow, Hose Lieutenant Greg Sharp, Ladder Lieutenant Clay Kirby, and Rescue Lieutenant Don Shetter. It's the second year of a two-year appointment for Mike Gregorich as hose captain. And then two administrative positions who are responsible basically for tracking the business of the department. The Treasurer David Winslow and the Secretary Dan Everson. This is the slate I have reviewed, and I do support the recommendation of the chief.
This is another one of those kind of funny fire department things. We really don't have any authority or input on this, but we have to approve it.
Yeah, it's the internal structure of the command structure of the fire department, but by statute, the chief recommends to the board, and the board has to authorize the appointments. So that's what you're being requested to do this evening.
Okay, John?
Motion to approve the appointments of the fire rescue officers and administrative treasurer and secretary as recommended by the fire rescue chief and township manager.
I'll second that.
Okay, Dan, you had your hand up.
If I'm not mistaken, the ladder captain is also a 2-year term. It's not indicated here, but I believe it's a 2-year term.
It isn't.
As is the hose captain, and this would be his first year of the 2-year term.
Correct.
Should we change that in the?
I've traditionally not put the terms in there, and they track that internally.
Okay.
That's good information, though, just so we know. All right,
That's not for me to track, that's for.
Well, it's, I pointed it out just because it had the second year of that term in there.
okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. 9D is consider AMAR resolutions. We have 3: poverty appeals, pre-interest denial distribution policy, and waiver of penalty and interest for untimely filed property transfer affidavits.
Each of these do need an individual adoption.
It's required by the state to do it.
Correct.
A few years ago, when the state went to the AMAR auditing system, I don't even know what I want to say about it. It's been a good process, I think, for the assessing department to be able to refine and streamline their reports for their auditing. They just get everything done, the assessor and both assessors, and download it, and then the state comes back and says, where are you with this? What's this value? You know, how's this taxed? And what's your zoning here? And they go through the whole process. So first year, there were a lot of cleanup things that that department had to do, you know, which I'm sure a lot of other communities did too. But our 2 assessors have jumped on this and have really made, we got good reports the last couple of years. I think this is year 5, something
Correct.
like that.
5th year.
So
So
we need 3
separate.
resolutions.
Correct.
Randy, I think you were first, weren't you?
Yes, I will make a motion that we approve the resolution for the poverty appeals as per compliant with our audit.
Support.
Okay. Ernie, were your comments?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Oh,
Or do we need
It's a
yeah,
resolution
roll
for
call.
roll call vote. So Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Marks,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
and Supervisor Duran.
Yes.
That motion carries 7-0.
Okay. The next one is poverty appeals. Nope, that was the first one, sorry. Denial distribution policy.
I'll move using the same wording as the last one for the clerk. Just change.
Peter,
I'll support.
okay. Comments or questions? You do have the background documentation in front of you. These are huge resolutions, so we're not going to read them.
Well, and also too, they will be listed in the minutes as written. So your board minutes will be longer because these will be included.
Yes.
We do.
Go ahead then.
Treasurer Johnson,
Yes.
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee LaRue,
Yes.
Trustee Everson,
Yes.
Trustee Marks.
Yes.
Supervisor Duran.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0. Third, I'll move to approve the resolution for untimely filed properly transfer affidavits.
Support.
Dave?
Yeah, I had a couple questions today that were fielded by Dulcie, and my question was, why would we waive fees and penalties for untimely filing of those? And what it comes down to apparently is the fee is $5 a day to a maximum of $200, and it's a civil matter, so we'd have to go to court to get the money. So the cost outweighs the fine. So that was the answer I got.
That's a good one. Anything else? Ernie?
It's the same thing on personal property.
Same.
It costs us more to get it, to use the attorney to do everything than the dollars that we get back. But yet, under state statute, we have to do it. And that-
Okay.
Roll call vote is clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee Marks?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Trustee Everson?
Yes?
Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
And Supervisor Duran. Motion carries 7-0.
Okay. Consider scheduling work session for 2020 strategic plan. All we've done is have meetings lately, hey? You want to try something next week?
Hold on.
Oh, thank you.
You want Randy?
No paper, people.
More dead trees.
Okay, so let's do the schedule first and see.
Okay.
What are your thought processes? Next week?
Fine.
So we don't have to skirt the next board meeting?
Anything after 1 o'clock would be fine.
O'clock next week. So Wednesday, the 29th looks good for me, or Thursday.
Wednesday, 1 to 3 would be ideal.
Does that work?
Wednesday on the 29th.
1 to 3?
I'll be out of town.
Okay, are you gone all week?
27th, 28th, 29th.
Okay, how's Thursday look then? How does that work for you, Dave?
That's fine.
Thursday,
1 to 3 works for me.
Is that all right?
Isn't that in that time frame? I'm trying to get my,
The 30th?
30th is a
30th?
Thursday. You'll be back?
be back on that Friday.
Oh, you said 27th, 28th, and 29th.
Well, I don't have my calendar, so I'm trying to get it to come up
Wake it
here. I'll be gone that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Oh, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Okay. Then back Friday?
Mm-hmm.
You want to try a Friday?
I mean, Friday afternoon is gonna be bad for me.
You want to go backwards and try Monday? I have a 2 o'clock.
Dan's gone Monday, too.
Oh, I thought you said Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Monday would be fine.
Oh, Monday
Yeah,
would be
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I will be gone.
I'd have to do it, we can't do it in the morning, like 10 or 11? Okay. Monday's not gonna work for me. I got a 2 o'clock I can't get rid of.
Friday won't work?
Friday's all right with me.
Friday
But
works.
we can't have Ernie.
Well,
What time, Ernie?
Could you do it earlier? Well, he said.
pick a time, I have to work lab in for my wife sometime during that day. I don't know when, so I'll have to work around it, that's all. And
Even 2 o'clock or even 3 o'clock is fine.
that would be fine.
Well-
I'll try and work around that.
Would 3 o'clock be too late? What's your school schedule?
No, it works. I can
3?
Or 2
work around
o'clock
it.
would be okay.
2?
31st?
2 o'clock on the 31st, Friday? Does that help?
Okay,
2 o'clock on the
Okay.
31st, yeah, that would work.
So
I
work
will-
session?
Yeah, so I will make a motion, we schedule a work session for strategic planning on January 31st, which is Friday, at 2 o'clock to 2 to 4.
Just to be safe. Okay.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 2 o'clock, Friday, the 31st of January. Dave, now.
What I handed out was what I promised I'd put together out of the last work session. And all that is it is the SWOT items that I've received so far, I put on in the sheet. And then I added the goals for the master plan, the rec plan, and the transportation plan, just so
Perfect.
it updates that whole thing, so you got something to work on between now and the work session.
Okay, so we've got
I like to
something to
print.
look at.
Good job with the printing.
Because it's nice and
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
Beautiful work.
Cool. Well done, Dave. Thank you. Anything else on that?
That's in a PowerPoint format, so we get it the work session, we can put it up on the screen and work on it too.
We can do that.
Can we do it in here? Do we need to
Yes.
go to the community?
No, we can do it in here.
Right here.
Yeah. Here or conference room or whatever, we can.
Okay. Consider request for proposals for IT services.
First of the year, we're at the point of renewing our IT service contracts with our current vendor, 906 Technologies, and I'm just bringing it before the board to see if you would prefer to entertain looking at going out for a proposal or renewing. The proposal is very similar to the proposal that's currently in place through December 2019 with our current vendor. So we have not gone out for bids on IT services for some time. It's a fairly major process. And I leave it to the board to determine if we wish to do that or if you wish to have this be a strategic planning item.
Any thoughts? Oh, sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
The lights. Remember, you asked for
When I
them.
look, they're off. I know.
We had talked a couple meetings ago about going out for, and putting an RFP together for that, make sure we're still getting a good shake on what we're doing.
That's why we put it on here.
Okay.
So,
And I would be my opinion that we should do that.
Had a motion, Dave?
Sure, it's a motion.
I'll support.
anything else?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We just didn't tell the manager when to do it.
I was gonna say, what about the time frame?
I'm presuming that means now.
Sure, he'll do it as soon as he can.
When is it up for renewal? Is it this month, or,
We'll be going month to month.
oh, okay. So, as soon as possible then, okay.
We do, as you know, we do have several major things in works right now. We're replacing a server, we're replacing 10 of the desktop units, converting to Windows 10, so those things are all in progress and will be remaining with our current vendor. Probably looking at something for the ultimate upcoming renewal.
Okay. Any public comment?
Oh, yeah.
Not yet. Managers report.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got announcements.
No announcements.
Oh, yeah, it's out of order.
That's out of order.
Oh, gun. Didn't even notice that. Thank you.
You can still have a public comment.
Okay, so announcements then. Nothing to share? Yes, go ahead, Randy.
From the election side of things, the presidential primary will be Tuesday, March 10th. That will be the presidential primary in Michigan. As of now, we are taking applications for absentee or absentee voting in the office as we speak. Any of you that are on the permanent list should be getting a application to vote. If not, make sure you come in the office to get one, or make sure you're on the list, because we do maintain a permanent AV list. We don't have the ballots yet. They should be coming in near future, and once they come, we'll be mailing out those ballots for the AV voters. March, let's see, the 10th is Tuesday. Saturday, March 7th, the Township Hall will be open from 8 to 4 p.m. for any voters that would like to come in and get an absentee ballot or bring it in. So we'll be open 8 hours on that Saturday, previous to March 10th. And that will be the start of the busy election season for us.
Personally and community-wise.
Yes.
Anything else for announcements? Okay, Randy,
I have a question.
sorry.
You have some classes coming up too, Randy, don't you?
Yes, there's going to be a training class on Thursday, February 6th at this Marquette Township Hall. There'll be a And these are for precinct inspectors or prospective precinct inspectors. You have to have a 2-hour training class. The county is going to hold one here on Thursday, February 6th from 10 a.m. to 12 will be the morning one, and you don't need to go to both, but they're offering 2 classes, so if someone can't come in the morning, they can come maybe in the afternoon from the 1 to 3 course. And I have several election inspectors that are elapsing their certification, so most of them will be there. And if any people would like to come from the township, you're more than welcome to come and get certified. You have to be certified in order to work any election, so.
And what does that involve? What are the responsibilities?
The election inspector, basically you're trained on how to handle the voters when they come in, how the procedures, how we do things in the election. It's basically an overview of the election and what the responsibilities of the election inspectors are. The precinct chairperson and the clerk have overall election, we cover it, but we need the help from the precinct inspectors to do most of the work. So it's a very important job. It is a paid job, so if you're interested, you'd have to come and get an application. And that does not guarantee you a job to work here, but if I would need you, I would certainly probably contact you. But that certification allows you to work anywhere in Michigan for an election. So for the city of Marquette, you could go work for the city of Marquette or Marquette Township, anywhere.
So it's a general education certification.
Correct.
And they can work wherever they want in the state of Michigan, and you could hire them too.
I could yeah, right now, I mean, I can't hire an unlimited amount of people, but I do have my staff, and some people are gone to Florida that time of year, so I might need additional people.
So I don't even have to commit to every election?
No, no. They just have to tell me basically if they would like to work here, what their availability is, and if I could work them in, that would be great.
And do they still work a whole day's shift? Do they do like 12 hours then? Or?
The precinct chairs have to work the full day, and of course, I'm here all day. We usually try to split the election inspectors into 2 shifts because it's a very long election, and being here from 7 or 6 in the morning to past 9 or 10 at night is a very long shift. So we try to split it half and half, so we have a morning shift from like 6 to 2:30, and then 2:30 to close, so.
Okay. Sounds like a good opportunity if
Yeah, I mean,
somebody wants to do something.
if someone would like, in the class is a great class if you're interested in doing that, because if you're not interested, you'll find out very quick you don't want to do it, so.
And they don't have to pay for that class?
No, it's a free class. Yeah, it's a free training by the county, and you do get certified, so. We're holding it here because I have several of my folks that need that, so it's a benefit to the township to have it here.
How long is that certification good then?
It is good for 2 years.
Okay.
So every 2 years, you have to recertify. And that class is basically targeted for the March 10th primary. The county will have additional classes leading up to the August and probably November elections also, but I imagine the other classes for August would be in the summertime, and she might have one more before November, so.
Okay. And they would be 2 years certifications from the date of that class?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Randy on that?
It's a good opportunity. I'm always looking for more folks, and like I said, I can't guarantee you a job, but we do have circumstances where people are gone for vacations, because August is heavy vacation time, and November, some people are gone to Florida by then, and March too. But it's an interesting animal, because this year we have 3, next year we might not have anything, and in the following year we'll have 2 or 3. So we almost have to retrain ourselves after 2 years because and things are always being updated and the state is always changing things. So that's why it's good to come to the class to see what's changed since your last election, basically.
Did you say that the state is always changing things?
Yes, they are always changing things. And the new law that was enacted a few years ago with the no reason absentee has changed a lot of things also. So,
And back and forth on the straight ticket.
yeah, straight ticket is still there. So there's been a lot of changes and the state has been evolving how to handle a lot of that. And when we have our county clerk meeting here, we usually get someone from the state to come up and give us information about what's going on. So we're constantly being updated, but some of the stuff is just, it's evolving as we speak, so. I can tell you the elections now versus elections 10 years ago are much more complex than they were 10 years ago.
It's supposed to be streamlined. More
And
streamlined, more
not
efficient.
always, not always.
Okay, we're down to the manager's report.
I won't take up much of your time. You have a printed report in your packet. One correction needs to be made, however. The ice rink is now open, hopefully for more than a day or two. We've been having difficulty, as you would expect, with the rain and freezing rain and alternating sunshine in less than good temperatures for freezing ice, solid for skating, but it is temporarily open. Forecast is not great. It's going to be cold for a while, but it's also going to be sunny. Sunshine is a problem with the ice. It's the main reason we're talking about potentially putting a roof over it to keep the sun off the ice. Deteriorates it pretty quickly. So, but for now it is open. The warming building is also open. Just following up on a couple of comments that Attorney Zappa made regarding in-process items. We have a couple of land use issues that we're dealing with in the process of scheduling a meeting for one. The other is a combination land use in conjunction with noise ordinance. As Roger mentioned, he has looked at the noise ordinance, and I think much of what's the issue with the noise ordinance is an interpretation issue that we need to work on with the Sheriff's Department. But at the same time, that same situation has created a concern with Planning and Zoning Department with regard to several sections of the zoning ordinance with regard to residential use within the urban residential district, and they are in the process of following up on those items as well. So unless board members have any questions, that's all that I had.
Anything for the manager? Pete?
I got one question. Do you think it warrants any dusted dawn lights on the ice rink and over by the tennis courts at night? Have some kind of
Tennis courts
They
aren't
looked at
lit,
it.
but the ice rink is on the east and west. We do have fixed lights that are on a timer, basically, and they are set to turn off at about the time our noise ordinance starts, 10 o'clock. However, on moonlit nights, that doesn't stop. Use of the ice rink is, and we've not had any complaints from the ice rink itself with regard to use after hours or late night use. It's generally not playing hockey. It's usually somebody just out there skating. But the lighting system is on a timer and does turn the lights off at 10 o'clock.
Anything else for the manager?
The only other comment is we still are receiving not complaints but comments regarding people carrying a little too much speed in the new, particularly the west roundabout, the one by Brickyard Road in particular. Eastbound traffic is coming in a little fast and having difficulty remaining in their lane. So we've had quite a bit of lane turnover, and that is difficult to begin with regard to speed, and we are looking into some other mechanisms to try and control that speed a little better. Looking into the possibility of some of the radar speed signs, basically, that will remind folks of their speed as they're coming down that hill. It is a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit through the roundabout, and if you go much over that, it's difficult to navigate.
The DDA talked about that too in the last couple meetings, getting those
Right.
lit signs, so I sent him some information I got.
There are signs a quarter mile and half a mile out, but as you're coming down the hill, they are difficult to see with all of the visual impacts beyond them. So even though with the flashing light, they're still fairly easy to miss. So we want to get something that will alert people a little earlier in terms of the speed that they're carrying going into that area. It's a congested area to begin with.
It'd be interesting to know with our township officer how many accidents that have been there that are basically property damage accidents where nobody was injured. I have noticed a few pieces of evidence from vehicles being left there just about every day. You see fender parts and bits and pieces, and I believe 3 days ago there was tracks that went right over and right up into the round area there, and they're just going too fast.
Well, they're going too fast, and we've had conditions that are conducive to that kind of activity. I mean, we've had a lot of freezing rain, we've had a lot of ice again this year, and it's in many cases not noticeable until you're in it. And
It is hard.
The roads are slick. They're pretty slippery, so a little extra caution is always positive. And if you have four-wheel drive, use it. I see a lot of cars that are selective four-wheel drive that are sliding sideways, and that's, caution. Slow down, be aware of what's going on. But yeah, you're right. There've been relatively, not a lot, but a few, and historically and typically a roundabout is designed that way, so you have side to side as opposed to head-on type encounters, shall we say.
Encounters.
And everything's plastic these days. So, if the weather's cold and you have a small bump, you're gonna leave pieces behind.
Okay. Randy, review your motions.
Okay, the consent agenda was approved as presented. It was a roll call because of the budget amendment. Approval agenda as presented was approved. That was motion 2. Third motion of the night was to approve the audio recommendation for placing the planning commission meetings on the YouTube. Fourth motion was to approve the fire rescue department 2020 officers, and that was approved. The fifth motion was to approve the AMR resolution, poverty appeals, and that was approved by roll call vote. The sixth motion was to approve the AMR resolution for pre-interest denial distribution policy. That was approved by roll call vote. The seventh motion was to approve the AMR resolution for waiver of penalty and interest for untimely filed property transfer affidavits. That was approved by roll call vote. The eighth motion was to schedule a work session on Friday, the 31st of January from 2 to 4 p.m. for strategic planning, and that will be posted tomorrow or the next day. And the ninth motion was to direct the manager to go out for proposals, request for proposals, IT services, and that was approved.
Lots of business we did tonight.
Just one comment,
Sure.
if I may. On the one resolution for the interest denial distribution policy, the PRE stands for Principal Residence Exemption. It's not pre-interest, it's Principal Residence Exemption interest.
Okay, anything special for the next agenda that you want or need or think about? If you do, let us know. Any carryovers right now. Any board member comment? Yes, Randy.
I guess the only thing I'm going to comment is on our YouTube channel. Right now, we are getting that for free. It's a free service. And you know how that evolves. Sometimes we have got a lot of data in that. We got a lot of videos, and it's unlimited storage right now. But looking at the trends of the industry, there might be a time where we have to pay a fee to put our stuff there. So I'm just letting the board know that we're getting it free right now, but maybe down the road it might not be free. Because you get advertising with it right now, which pays the fees, basically. But, more data and more stuff going in there, like I said, it might be a time we might have to pay a fee for that. So just letting the board know that that might happen.
So if we keep our meetings shorter, then we'll have less data going in.
No.
It might not be noticed as much.
No,
Keller, yes, yes.
Doesn't work.
that's my 2 cents.
Anything else for comments?
I move to adjourn.
Support?
What time have we got?
We got
8:01. We are finished.
All for the vote?
Go ahead, go ahead. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?